I'd like to tell you about a brand new podcast from my hometown of Denver. It's called Mile High Music, and it features father and son musician friends of mine, Kyle and Ryan Borthwick. You'll hear crazy and amazing stories from them and their guests about music and musicians from Colorado. Mile High Music. Check it out wherever you listen to your podcasts. Welcome to the Dive Bar Rockstar Podcast, a show exploring the lives of professional musicians of all types, touring musicians, recording artists, songwriters, engineers, bar bands, wedding bands, and anyone making their living in the music industry. Whether you've dreamed of being a professional or you already are one, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Eric Baines, and I hope that you not only find some entertainment here, but also some helpful tips, trade secrets, and ideas that will help you achieve your dreams. I am so excited to have an old friend on the podcast today. He's an incredible guitar player. He's probably in my top 5 all-time favorite guitar players. Don't pin me down on what the other 4 are because I don't want to get myself in trouble, but he's definitely one of my favorites. He's incredible, and he's had an incredible career. He currently plays with Janet Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Philip Phillips from American Idol, and he's also played with Layla Hathaway, Beyonce, Jamie Foxx, Christina Aguilera, Sheila E., Jessica Simpson, Raphael Sadiq, Mary, Fantasia, Queen Latifah, Andre Crouch. The list goes on and on. He's made countless TV appearances and even subbed for the Tonight Show band when Rickey Minor was the MD. So I think you're really going to enjoy the show. I do have one note before we start that because we're in these weird quarantine times, we can't always be in the same room together. So the sound quality of this is a little subpar because we did do this remotely. But I think that it's audible enough. You can email me and tell me what your thoughts are if it's too awful. But I think the conversation was worth putting this episode out. So I apologize, but try to enjoy this conversation with my friend Errol Cooney. So what is Janet Jackson like to work with?
She's a super easygoing and, soft-spoken, kind of probably what you would expect, I guess. I mean, she's super sweet. She takes great care of us, and she goes out of her way to kind of spend time with everybody and talk to everybody, which is cool because that's not, cool. Always the case. But
right.
Yeah, it's easy, and she knows what she wants for sure. So
does she talk music with you guys and stuff, or is the music?
Yeah, she does. She talks about music. I mean, she pretty much lets the band the musical director Daniel and the band kind of handle the music. She doesn't. Her attitude is like, just, let's not have too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, they know what they're doing.
Right.
But I mean, she definitely knows if she doesn't like something, she'll say, I don't like that. Do something else. You know what I mean? Like interludes or stuff, original little pieces we come up with for the concert.
Well, that's cool. And what kind of venues are you guys playing now?
We were doing mostly arenas. We actually did a bunch of festivals last year. We played Glastonbury.
Oh, cool.
We did some festivals in Australia. So those were bigger crowds, but mostly her concerts are like, Staples Center size places, arenas.
Gotcha. That's cool that she's kept it going all these years.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. When I first started playing with her, it was about 5 years ago. I was kind of, I even when I was a kid, dug her music, and mostly into like rock and roll. I liked her stuff, and I was learning her show. I was like, damn, she's got an unbelievable catalog, tons of music, all that stuff produced by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So it's all got that Minneapolis vibe.
Yeah, right. And so is it a pretty locked in show, or is it kind of loose and she calls tunes, or is it every night?
It's as locked in as can be. I mean, there's stuff that changes, but it's locked in. You know, like everything is they got video sync and pyro sync.
Got you. So it's still big production.
Yeah. Especially once we got to the Vegas thing, it was pretty massive stage.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, Vegas, they do it up right.
They do. That was a fun thing. I mean, it almost killed me living in Vegas for all that time. But
yeah.
And the show was good.
Where was the gig?
It was at Park MGM.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just got done with a Vegas residency with Dwight, which was a big production too. There was like a string orchestra and stuff. And
wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was a 3-hour show of him basically just talking about California country music and us playing it. It was kind of awesome, but it was a lot of work, like you say. And
we were at the mercy of the restaurants and bars. I think we had like a 10% discount or something, but I mean, yeah, I mean, every bartender in that place knew us all by name.
I bet so.
Yeah, it was a little much. I had to give myself a liver cleanse for about 6 months when I got home.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel like you're a part of like the Jackson family, like legacy, being a part of that gig? Because they seem like the royalty when I think about them. You know what I mean? And
totally. Yeah. I mean, it is that. I mean, that what a crazy showbiz family. You know what I mean? Like they all. Her mom came to a show, and her dad came to a show before he passed away a few years ago. But they all the brothers and everybody came at some point, and they would all come backstage, and it is kind of like a. Well, you remember? Was it with you in Las Vegas that Michael Jackson came and saw the Disney show we were doing?
Right. Yeah. We were on the High School Musical show together. And
I mean, there's just like a feeling when there's a Jackson in the room, right?
Yeah. Well, especially that one, because he came with like Secret Service and stuff, and
he had a kind of different level of security, which he needed for.
Yeah, and he had his 3 kids with him.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was amazing. I'll probably never forget that. Just watching him watch us and being like,
because he was at the soundboard. I remember seeing him. He was wearing a mask, which at the time seemed very odd.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's just our everyday lives.
Yeah.
Man. So you grew up like a gypsy kind of.
Yeah. I grew up, I was born in Houston. My family's all from Texas, and my dad is an actor. My mom was an actor when I was a kid, and eventually became a children's writer, but we moved around a lot. We did theatrical tours when I was really young. So from when I was like 2 to 4, we were on the road, but one year was in Las Vegas, but,
oh, wow.
We traveled all around. We would do like, theater tours, they stay in cities. So we would,
right.
We were in Vegas for a year, and we'd be in Cleveland for 3 or 4 weeks, or,
Wow. That's cool.
From there, we moved to New York, and then from New York to LA. So my dad could kind of start getting into more film and television stuff. And then after high school, I moved up to the Bay Area. That was just on my own to kind of pursue music, and then eventually came back 10 years later. Here I am back in LA.
Yeah. So you had no choice. You were going to be a performer.
Yeah, I was definitely surrounded by a lot of performers. But both my parents and my older brothers both played guitar and sang. I remember that was actually when people ask me, but it was like an early memory of something that made you want to be a musician. There were 4 years in a row where my 2 older brothers, won the Battle of the Bands at their high school in New York, where we lived at the time. And I remember this is in like mid 80s, late 80s. And it's
big hair.
Big hair, exactly. So I see all these, our brothers are playing and singing, and all these big haired girls are screaming. I'm like, wow, that's what I want
to do. Yeah. And every day is exactly like that now.
Yeah. Dream is exactly as I pictured it.
Yeah. So did you go to college? Did you study music?
No, not really. I went to, I did go for a couple years to City College, San Francisco. I took music classes for a couple years, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go beyond 2 years though. I started playing. I started working a lot, and then that was
Right,
it.
right. And do you think that, did you get a lot out of that, or do you feel like most of the stuff that you just figured out on your own?
As a combination. I mean, I definitely had a good jazz band teacher at that City College of San Francisco. This was like 95, 96. And he also taught harmony, classical harmony. So that definitely taught me a lot. Just, just learning big band tunes and learning how to comp and learning how to voice leading and all that stuff. That was, very eye opening for me, but also just playing gigs around town and meeting people and hearing people, that, being forced to learn stuff.
Right.
Was just as valuable, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think you're probably one of the most versatile players that I know. So it's kind of amazing that you have such a vast, like, vocabulary of stuff. You're not an old guy either. That
I'm starting to feel very old.
I bet you so. I still don't have kids yet, so I'm staying young.
Yeah, good for you. Don't rush into it. But it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
That part out there. That's it. Rush into it.
Absolutely. You're kind of amazing to me, because there's not a lot of guys that are that talented, that haven't had a little more formal training, especially I feel like now, like the guys at the top are kind of all from Berkeley or Miami or North Texas or whatever. And you were you were, equal, if not a better player than most people. And was that just sitting in front of the TV, like with your guitar and figuring shit out? Or
there was a lot of that for sure. I mean, it was just, I was around it a lot. Again, like, I had my parents singing and playing and my brothers singing and playing.
Right.
And I mean, I had a really good high school jazz teacher. I had a really good college jazz band director, and I just was kind of surrounded. I also, it was a weird path too, because I started off really very much just into classic rock, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was in high school, I got into funk and James Brown and Parliament, Funkadelic, and all that stuff. And then that kind of led me to jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And then playing gigs around town in San Francisco led me to gospel music, which was kind of the only thing that I hadn't played a lot of.
Right.
And huge shift in my playing too, meeting Eric Smith and Jubu Smith and Teddy Campbell and all these guys that really kind of got me into what my professional career became.
Got you.
So yeah, it was just, being lucky enough to meet the right people and kind of go through this weird musical learning experience along the way.
That's cool. So then you came to LA, and how long after you got here did you meet Rickey Minor? And how did that all happen? Because it seems like he's been a big kind of guy in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. Rickey, I met Rickey through Teddy Campbell, who's been his drummer forever. And I met Teddy through Eric Smith playing with Mary Mary.
Oh, gotcha.
So that was kind of through the gospel world that I met Rickey and started doing more stuff in LA.
Was High School Musical the first Rickey gig you had, or?
Yeah. I had met him before that, and I had done stuff that he was kind of advising on, but that was the first thing he hired me for.
Wow, that's cool.
And then he recommended me for Stevie Wonder not long after that, and Christina Aguilera. It was kind of one thing after the other, and then
wow.
And I ended up doing a lot of gigs with his band, The Tonight Show, whenever Paul couldn't make it, or when they would have two guitar players.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's doing that kind of gig, house band gigs. That'll kind of work you into shape too, because you gotta read. I mean, he got on me early about reading, because I'd never was a big reader. I could do it, but I wasn't a good like sight reader.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, being forced, you know, you're going to run a tune maybe once, maybe twice,
right?
And it's like, all right, that's it. You know, so you better feel pretty good about it after that. And so that was a big, that was a good experience for me getting into that, getting through that.
So what did you do to work on that? Because I always think about reading. It's like so hard to sit in your room and learn it because it really takes the pressure of being on the spot. I feel like, you know, like there's kind of the only way to learn is to like throw yourself into the fire a little bit, you know, but
I mean, that's what I had to do. I had to fail that initial rehearsal or two and then just kind of do my homework then, and then just get in the habit of doing it, you know, get in the habit of doing it. And that when, and also knowing to kind of approach reading the same way you approach music not reading, which is you know, use your ears still,
right,
and stay ahead, and don't let the paper is a guide. You don't want, especially as a guitar player, a lot of the time there's wrong stuff on there, and it's really just kind of, you know, you see that sim thing written, it's like, okay, well, really it's most of the guitar parts are not written,
right,
you know, exactly.
Right.
You know, if it is a very specific part, it'll be written. But knowing how to kind of interpret as well as read is important.
Read with your ears.
Yeah, reading with your ears. You know, don't turn anything off. Use all of it.
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a little different for bass, I think, because there's a lot of times it's notated lines that I've got to play, and so.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the gig. You know, I've done these, like some film stuff and some TV stuff where it is like, you know, you get cut time charts where everything's written out. That's there's just different kinds of reading, you know, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just kind of got to immerse yourself in all of it, and, you know, screw it up a couple times and keep working on it. You know what I mean? Like
and just hope that you don't get fired in the process.
Yes. Yeah. The goal is to not get fired, for sure.
Yeah, I've been in some pretty scary situations where you're surrounded by guys, especially on a TV gig, where it's like these guys get paid to read. They're readers. Or if you're if you're playing with strings, and a lot of times the bass is sort of doubling the cello, so there's someone else playing your part, and they know when you screw up, you know. And just to be
I as I got better at it, I found myself because guitar and bass, sometimes we will have, you know, we'll be playing unison. And I started to catch, you know, some of the people veering away from the chart. And, you know, of course, I got to be superior and correct them.
That's the best.
Well, it's just, it just shows you, it's just like, you're gonna mess up, you know what I mean? You just have to be able to recover well. Right.
Yeah. And hope that you're not with guys that are just, some people are just Nazis about it, you know?
You're gonna have
but
you just kind of I've definitely been in those situations too, where it's, you know, you can feel the eyes burning through you, like he doesn't know what he's doing.
Exactly. Who hired this guy? Oh man. So yeah, we were on the High School Musical tour together. That was awesome. That's where I first met you, and we drank a little, we had a little fun, you know, and like took a bunch of kids songs and played the shit out of them every night, I feel like.
Yeah, it was a great band.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So, but I seem to remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like the last date of the US tour, we played Staples Center, and you like sound checked. Then you ran over to center staging and auditioned for Christina Aguilera.
That's right.
Then, like, came back and played the show. And then like a week later, you're off on tour with Christina.
Yeah, that was crazy. That's right. I forgot that was all at the same time. That's that was the first audition. There was a callback, I think, the next day. And it was a situation where her guitar player, Errol Cooney, who I love, great guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
He left to go back on tour with Josh Groban. So it was one of those things where they needed somebody quick.
Right.
Yeah, that was a nice busy period of my life before we had kids. And
right.
Yeah, so I went straight from High School Musical to Christina, back to High School Musical, and then as soon as Christina finished the next leg, that's when I got the Stevie Wonder gig. That was a good year. 2006, 2007. That was good.
I mean, those are some great gigs.
Yeah, it was like because that was my first big arena tour was High School Musical, the Disney thing, and then it was
all arenas after that.
Yeah, only arenas.
I will do no club gigs. Yeah. Yeah. One thing that's amazing, you seem to get a lot of gigs from auditioning, and I have never gotten a single gig. I've gotten one gig, and that was at Disneyland from an audition. And I've had a fairly decent career as well, but I've never, if there's an audition and they invite me, I just know I'm not going to get the gig. But you seem to get it.
I hate auditioning. And it's funny because since around that time, I haven't done that. I haven't done nearly as many as I used to. I auditioned for High School. Well, that wasn't really an audition. We kind of just got it.
I came in later on that because Tal Wilkenfeld was originally the bass player, and then
That's right.
She bailed out. So I think Chad recommended me to Matt, and then I just showed up the next day. And Ricky saw me, and he's like, "Okay, cool, you're fine." But do you have any so you hate auditions, but do you have a thing about, do you go in with a conscious thing this is what I do at an audition, or you just go and you be yourself and it just turns out well?
Well, you try and be yourself and try and be as confident as possible. But again, you kind of got to read the situation, for Christina, it seemed more, at least initially, like it was a visual thing they were looking for. They wanted us to learn choreography at that first audition, which I thought was great.
Wow.
But then Stevie's audition, it was more just like we were jamming every day. Once he started coming, we never played any of his music. We were playing giant steps and, fusion tunes and whatever he felt like. And I remember at one point, after 5 days of this, I called Nate Watts, the bass player, his bass player for forever. And I said, "Hey, so do I have the gig?" And he said, "Well, you don't see any other guitar players showing up." No. And I said, "Well," he said, "that's probably a pretty good sign." I said, "All right, that's not really an answer, but okay." Right. But it worked out. Yeah, I ended up getting it. And then there's, other audition gigs that were Michael Bolton. That was a rough one.
Yeah, I was there at that one. I auditioned for that. We played together on it, but I got there. Great. I got there, and 3 out of the 4 songs that we had to learn were in completely different keys, and the charts were in the wrong keys, and they're not. They were a million chords in a ballad. Now go down a fourth. We got fixed on that one for sure.
But
there again, you got the gig and I didn't. So whatever your secret is, it's working, or it worked. That.
Yeah, I mean, a large amount of fear and a big smile. Act like you know what you're doing.
Oh man, that should be the name of your next record. That's awesome. So you got the Stevie Wonder gig, and that's awesome, right? He was an idol of yours, obviously.
Yeah. I listened to him since I was in utero. My parents actually tell the story of listening to the album "Songs in the Key of Life" when my mom was pregnant with me. But
wow. That's cool.
My whole life, and went through phases. I remember my parents listening to it, and then I got back into it really in high school, and was in a Stevie Wonder cover band when I was 18 or 19.
Oh, wow.
So that was really exciting to get that gig.
Yeah. So having worked with him so much now, do you still idolize him? Has it made you like him more? Or, they say don't meet your heroes sometimes, but.
I mean, he's unbelievable. To be able, because he's very giving musically, he he shares his gift. He spreads kind of that his way of songwriting. And so being able to be around him when he's writing a song and when he's giving people parts and all that stuff is really kind of special.
Wow.
And kind of made me see him in a whole different light. I mean, not really different, but just like it expanded my reverence for him. You know what I mean? It's like, man,
right.
the way he thinks, the way he kind of lets the song tell him what to do.
Right. Wow. Cool.
Really kind of a big teaching experience for me, learning experience.
And there's a great YouTube video of your solo on Spain. And like when you have a short spot like that, when it's like introducing Errol, do you kind of do the same thing every night, or is that all improv? You try to change it up every night because it's like 16 bars, right?
Yeah, I hated that. I mean, it was cool. It's fine. You know, I mean, it's cool to have been a part of it. Mm-hmm. But it was just like one dynamic level, 16 bars, Errol go, and everybody kind of had the same thing. So yeah, I mean, it changed a little bit every night. I definitely had like some themes that I would kind of expound on.
Right.
But yeah, I dreaded that every single night.
Wow.
Every time we did it.
Man.
I mean, sometimes it came out great. That one was okay.
I thought it was great.
Well, thank you.
That's good. So don't worry, I liked it.
As long as you like it, I'm good.
You know what I'm saying? I'll start sending you notes every time I see you doing cool shit on YouTube, just to make you feel good.
Don't worry, it's not that bad,
dude. No, you're fine. It was extremely fine.
That was the most adequate solo.
You're really doing your job up there. I like it.
Errol Cooney guitar.
And it's a huge band.
Yes, and it got bigger. Right? By the time we did the Songs in the Key of Life tour, which was 2015, I think, there was a string section on stage. There was a choir. There was 2 of everything, 2 drummers, and several keyboard players, like 4 keyboard players.
Wow.
Including him. 2 guitar players, 2 percussionists. Yeah, it's a massive band. So that's another thing. Is you really kind of got to be careful how you approach playing with such a large group of people. You know, like you don't want to. Of course, everybody wants to show what they can give to the music, but really, you got to let the music tell you what to do. You got to serve the music. You know, that's something I'd always said to me growing up. Like, always serve the art form.
And did you? Does he hang? Is it like a guy like, or is he kind of in and out? Did you ever? You know what I mean?
We hung a few times. I remember on one of the early tours, his birthday, we would always have some kind of hangout. He would have dinners and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
But, I mean, he travels with his own party. You know, there's always like the artist party, the band party, the crew party. So we didn't always hang, but he was always, you know, he always spoke to everybody, always wanted you to speak to him because, you know, it's, when you know, you're blind, you kind of have to have people come up to you. You're not gonna, unless, you know, you're asking to go see somebody.
Right.
So, yeah, he would go out of his way to make sure he spent some time with everybody.
That's great.
Cool.
And he has a massive catalog. And did you just have to learn it?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, just you can't really learn. I don't think there's anybody, including him, that remembers all 500-600 of those songs verbatim,
Right.
But as you play them, they come back to you. So yeah, I did. I mean, of course, all the hits you got to learn, but and I had the advantage of being a huge fan, so I know them anyway, and
right.
I can sing along to all of them for the most part.
Right.
So that's helpful. But he'll pull the most random stuff. I mean, you want to talk about the opposite of, we were talking about how Janet Jackson show is locked in. His show, until we did the Songs in the Key of Life tour, we never knew what he was going to do. I mean, once we got a few weeks into a tour, he kind of would have a plan. But I mean, there's a guy that would basically we called him the catcher, because he would be on a microphone on the side of the stage with a list of songs, and he'd call them, he'd say it into the microphone, we'd hear it in the ears, and Stevie would shake them off or just start playing the song.
Wow.
So it was like, pitcher catcher relationship.
Right. That's crazy.
But I found out, about that guy about a month into the gig. I wish I had known about that guy earlier. So I was like, please put him in my ears so I have some idea of what's coming. But yeah, he would pull out songs. I mean, not even, he would pull out covers. And he just, that's kind of, he's a free spirit in that way. He doesn't want to do the same thing every night.
And did you have tracks?
So for some songs, mostly not.
Yeah. That's cool.
As it went on, we did more stuff with clicks and tracks, but never everything. I mean, there was a couple of times where they would try and catch them, because there's a couple songs that had like orchestras in the box.
Right.
Overjoyed always had a track. So that one, they would try and catch him.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And the guy was amazing that he caught him as much as he did, but you're not always going to catch the beat. And then it's, we're going down.
Yeah. Don't put the tracks in your ears.
Fight through it. You'll make it.
Wow. That's cool. Well, I was watching the 25th anniversary Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when he was on, and there you were, and I was like, oh, that's Errol. And then John Legend comes out, and Sting, and Jeff Beck, and B.B. King, and I'm like, there's Errol playing with all these legendary people.
That was awesome.
That just must have been insane, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was insane. The rehearsals for that were insane. Because again, I didn't know what I knew it was that. I knew it was the anniversary for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That was what the show is. But I didn't know all those guests were coming. So they started coming in. B.B. King comes in. Speechless. But that was amazing, getting to play with all those guys. Everybody you mentioned, Jeff Beck. I mean, who shaves his armpits? That was a surprise. What else? So that was a gig. You want to talk about going down? So you saw the edited version,
right?
That was it was a live show. It wasn't like it was all produced for TV. So there was a big crowd, and they were trying to do pretty big stage changes. It had a turntable stage,
right?
So we're setting up on the back as I think Crosby, Stills, Nash are playing on the front. So we're all set up. We got our ears. We hear everything. Turn the stage around. Lights come on. No sound. The front of house board would not fire up. It couldn't. It was one of those things where it was running on Windows and it would not fire up.
Oh no!
So we're just standing there, and it wasn't that long because they figured out how to send. We were going to the recording truck, and they figured out how to send the lines back from the recording truck to the PA.
Gotcha.
So, and our front of house guy was on a phone telling them what to turn up and down. It was wild.
Oh my gosh!
But the magic of television, you couldn't tell any of that happened when they edited.
Couldn't tell at all.
The ears still worked. I mean, we sounded fine to us. The crowd at first only heard drums for the first song.
Jeez. So did they have to stop the show and start over, or you just plowed right through it?
We just plowed through it. I mean, he started up, I think, the first thing they got up was his vocal mic and his keyboard. So he started playing, and then the drums came up. So slowly it was like we kind of jammed through the first song, and then we started our set.
Wow. That's crazy.
Madison Square Garden, fucking, 30,000.
No big deal.
Just give us 1 second.
We've done this before, I swear.
Yeah, and and all these other awesome people were there, like Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Bruce Springsteen played after us, and everybody had all these great special guests, and Bonnie Raitt, and all these heroes of mine are playing guitar and singing.
So one more Stevie Wonder thing that I wanted to ask you about is the White House performance. What was it like to be performing like basically in Obama's lap?
Here, wait a second. I think I have this picture here somewhere.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's the White House. It's a small room, so you really feel like it's like playing in, somebody's big living room or something.
Right.
So Herbie Hancock was sitting like 3 inches, I felt like I couldn't turn without hitting him with the headstock of my guitar.
Wow.
And, there's Obama and his wife and that was, an amazing experience being there all day, going through that security and everything.
Yeah. Did you get to hang out with the president? Other than that,
just for the photo, we kind of strong-armed our way in for the photo. The what do you call it? The person running the publicist. I should know that word because my wife is a publicist.
That's pretty funny.
But the publicist was trying to not let the band in, and we just kind of all went at the same time. And I remember Obama saying, "Oh, here they come! Here comes the band!" But he was really super nice. Shook all our hands, took the picture, and then they had a party. They had a reception afterwards, so they were there for a very short time. But
got you. That's great.
But that was a cool experience. And the strangest thing about it was that the director of the show, the PBS program that they were filming,
right,
was the mother and the aunt of one of my best friends in high school who I had not seen. I hadn't seen either one of them since high school. And I was like, I recognize their faces. We figured it out.
Wow.
So yeah, we ended up hanging out afterwards, and
that's
just
cool.
Our small world.
And Biden was sitting there too. He might be our next president. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what we have to hope for.
Yeah,
we don't have very many good options.
As usual.
Yeah, that was very cool though.
And wasn't Barry Gordy sitting there too? Is that?
Yeah, he was there.
He was like next to Biden. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, they're all like, I'm sitting here playing, and they're right in front of me.
And was that sort of nerve-wracking, or did you feel like
a little bit nerve-wracking? There's something about having Herbie Hancock that close to you. Nerve-wracking. Not so much the politicians.
Right. Yeah. But did you know you were doing kind of a historic thing there?
Yeah. And what that music, I know like the back of my hand. I know that music better than I know any other. So,
right.
I had to just kind of let that go and trust myself, trust that it would come through.
Right. Wow.
And it was a great band too. It was kind of a mixture of Rickey Minor's band and Stevie's band playing.
Yeah, it was much smaller.
Yes, not quite as many.
Because you couldn't fit anybody else on that stage. It was
there's no way. There's no way.
So you're doing a lot of sessions from home?
I have been doing a few, yeah. I did, a fair number, 2 or 3 per week, probably. Sometimes this week I've actually got more. I'm a little backed up, which is great. I haven't really tried, I'm lucky enough, blessed enough. People have just been kind of calling me in a steady stream.
That's great. Because this might be our future.
I mean, it's kind of seeming like it. I eventually people are going to have live music in, or the world will end.
I think you're right. I think people are
I think eventually people. I mean, I'm already starting to see, shows, social distance shows or whatever, where they have a limited crowd. This is, smaller places, obviously, but certainly in states like Texas and Florida, they're rushing to get to live music going.
So what are you recording into, since you're doing so many sessions?
I'm using Logic.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
Nice. And do you use the Kemper stuff? Are you miking things up, or are you?
I've got an ISO cab with a couple of different Mesa Boogie heads.
Oh, cool.
And a preamp and SM57. I've got an acoustic mic that I use, but I'm trying to do as much real stuff as possible. Real miking, real speakers. It's just hard to do in a garage. That's the good thing about the nighttime recording, is that there's not a lot of noise. During the day, it's hard to record acoustic instruments in here. But the ISO cabinet works great. I'm a
rock star. I'd like to take a second to thank you for listening to the Dive Bar Rockstar podcast. As a new podcast, getting the word out is a vital part of what it takes to keep the show on the road, or off the road, as the current case may be. If you would like to support the podcast, all you got to do is subscribe wherever you listen. And if you have an extra minute or two, please leave a review. You can also share and follow the podcast on your social media apps. Okay, enough begging. I hope you're having fun. And once again, thank you for listening. So you mentioned Philip Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of you guys on the internet, on the YouTubes, and it looked like a totally fun gig. It seems like
it is a lot of fun. He
had a really good chemistry.
Yeah, we have a great time playing together. It's he loves to just open it up and kind of let it go wherever it goes. So there's lots of soloing, lots of jamming kind of stuff.
And he's still out there doing it.
Yeah. He's really, he loves to do the live stuff, and he's got a small, really dedicated fan base. So we were doing like city wineries all over the country.
Right.
And they were like 99% sold out. And, just with the two of us, we had a great time. That was January and February of this year.
Oh, that's great. Because, he seems like one of the more talented, winners of American Idol.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And he's a good songwriter, too. Really talented songwriter.
You had worked with American Idol before, right? Were you in the house band, or?
I was, I met him doing the tour.
Gotcha.
But I had played going back to Fantasia, who won. I was her musical director for a while. That's how I met my wife, actually. She was her day-to-day manager, and I was her musical director.
Right.
And then I never was in the house band, but I did a lot of guesting with the house band, like when they needed an extra guitar player. That was through Rickey also. And then Ray Chu, after him, hired me for some stuff.
Are you a fan of the American Idol show?
I'm a fan of how much work it's given me and a million of my friends.
Right. Yeah.
And just the whole singing competition genre in general.
Yeah.
It's just, that is such a huge chunk of the work that all the musicians I know have been doing, especially in LA.
Right.
It's corny or whatever, but thank God for the work, because
it's really brought live music back to television.
Yeah, exactly.
And you played in a couple of the Grammy house bands too, as well, right?
Yeah, I did. Only one of the Rickey house bands we did. There were kind of different, different groups within the house band.
Oh, right.
So I did one of those, and then I played on it a few. Oh, actually, there was the Barry Gibb thing. So there's been a couple times I've done it, but that's always kind of a mishmash. There's some house band stuff, and there's some, some people always want to bring their band too. So.
Oh, right. So those good experiences.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing where it's just so much build up, and then the performance is 3 minutes or 10 minutes. If you're doing a house band kind of thing, maybe you get 7 or 8 minutes on camera.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's cool to be around, but it's mostly you're just locked in a dressing room, and then you run out there and play, and then you leave. Yeah. I remember I had to go pick up my wife from work, so I couldn't hang around. First time I did it.
Yeah, that's cool. And those are all at the Staples Center, right?
Yeah. There was one in New York a couple years ago. I didn't actually play that when I played at one of the events, the Clive Davis party that happened. But yeah, for the most part, they're always at the Staples Center.
So tell me about Legally Blynd.
Yes, Legally Blynd. That's a band. My band. We've been together for 20 years now. We figured out, which is
wow.
But I mentioned earlier Eric Smith and Jubu Smith, who were two big influence of mine, two big parts of my career. I met Eric, the bass player, when I moved to the Bay Area playing clubs, and he got me on my first tour. Mm-hmm. And we started the band. It's Jubu's the leader. He's my favorite guitar player in the world.
That's cool.
He writes the songs and sings lead mostly. And we've been doing, we did a couple albums. We've been playing together for quite a long time now.
That's cool. And I saw you in New York with those guys.
Yeah, exactly. At the SOBs.
And I just listened to the whole record today too. It's just really great. It's a 2015 record, I guess, right?
Right? Yeah.
Really cool stuff. It's like bluesy, it's jazzy, it's R&B.
It's a great combination.
Yeah. So are you guys working on more stuff?
Yeah, we've got a few things. It's one of those. It's hard to get us all together at the same time, especially now, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
But we've got a few things in the can, and we're planning on doing some recording and getting back out there. We did the last public gig I did was with Legally Blynd in Dallas on February 22nd.
Oh, wow.
That was the very last thing I did. Yeah, that was great. That playing with those guys, it's like, it's like being home.
Find my soul again. But when you touch me, something happened. Only you can do these things to me. Oh, my baby, yeah. Hey, you can't have the cake and eat it too. Because my pride won't let me. There's one problem. No. I'm still in love with you, and I'll never treat you this way. I'm gonna love you till they put me in my grave, and I'll never break your heart, so I break mine. Baby girl, why break mine? No.
And you met them in the Bay Area.
Yep. I met Eric playing at clubs, playing, cover gigs. And he was already out touring, and he kind of said, "Oh, hey, they wanted to have two guitar players because most of the songs he writes for two guitars." So cool. I was lucky enough that they liked me.
Well, you're likable. Sometimes.
Most of
the time.
40-60.
I don't know. Usually when we're together, we've been drinking a lot more than now. So we're both, yes. I think we're both more likable.
When we're not drinking.
Well, when we are drinking. I like myself better when I'm drinking. I don't know if that's
Yeah, see, that's the problem. See, it's just hard to tell. I think
yeah, that's
people
true.
like me more when I'm
Right.
drinking.
Yeah. I don't care what they think as much. That's the beauty of it.
There you go.
Well, speaking of that, I've always kind of been impressed with your sort of fearlessness and lack of ambition or inhibitions, not ambition. What am I talking about? That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, well,
lack of inhibitions. And I've always wondered, since your dad was an actor and you kind of grew up in the whole theater thing, if that sort of stems from that kind of training, like the whole acting thing of just being fearless and like, committing to a role and not caring so much about what people think. I don't know. I just see you as
I think I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I definitely, of course, have my share of insecurities, but I do think that I've always found that if you just throw yourself into the situation and just you try your best not to give a shit what anyone thinks,
right,
you will perform better. You will become more one with the music, like.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that does come from kind of being around, seeing my dad kind of throw himself into roles and seeing my brothers singing and at their best, kind of letting themselves go.
Yeah.
And then just, feeling it myself. I remember those first few like good moments in performance where I really felt like I didn't matter so much, but
Right.
more like I was kind of a pathway for this thing almost. I know it sounds maybe cheesy, but that's when I felt my best, is when I kind of took myself out of it and let myself go,
Right. Yeah. When you're kind of channeling.
Yeah. It's like you're a conduit for the thing.
Yeah. Well, that definitely comes across when you're playing. I think you're kind of completely in the moment, which is what makes it great.
That's when it's at its best. That's what it feels like to me, is that you're just kind of at one with this thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And don't get in its way.
Right. And you seem like a guy who really loves to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, still, of course, there's a lot of it that is a job. The more you play, it feels more like a job, but there's always something that reminds me how much I love it. There's always something that kind of brings me back to that reminds me how much I love what I'm doing. It could just be something small if, I'm playing some kind of horrible pop music, but there's always something in it that will bring me back to that love of music that I have.
Yeah. We're pretty lucky to be able to do what we do, I think.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't know what the hell else I'd do.
And we're getting a good taste of like not having it right now,
Yeah.
You're reminded how lucky we were. Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a little bit of that. Like, well, you better fucking be thankful for what you have.
Because,
right. How many people get to do this?
Yeah, definitely. Nobody right now.
Nobody at all.
Yeah.
But we can talk about it on the screen.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird time to start a podcast like this, because how do you get into the music business? Well, there is no music business. I don't know. But at the same time, I think there will be one.
Yes, it'll come back.
Yeah. Well, you've had like one of those careers so far anyway that just never seems to stop. It's like you got good gig to good gig to good gig. And I wonder, do you feel like that's your career? Or do you always, I always kind of feel, even when I'm at doing some cool gigs, I always feel sort of unemployed. But people from the outside were like, wow, you just have had a steady career. Does it feel like you have a steady career, or do you always feel, like, where's my next gig?
I always feel like I'm right on the edge of what's the next thing. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because actually with my current situation, this is the most stable income I've ever had, unemployment. but it's, even I'm always kind of thinking about what the next thing is going to be. And generally I have no control over it, so it doesn't do me any good.
Right.
but it's always kind of in the back of my mind. Even, if I've got 3 months of work in front of me, that's great. That's as far in the future as I think I've ever had at any given time.
Right.
So
yeah.
I don't know. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. It's just interesting, like how you see people's careers from the outside and how it really feels when you're that person, It's
definitely feels more tenuous than just like, I'll definitely get something after this. And I've been so lucky to get gigs that it's never, I never assume though that it's something else is gonna come. I've screwed up enough in my life to warrant people not hiring me anymore, but somehow I keep getting hired.
Yeah. Well, it's because you're a badass player, mostly, and a pretty cool dude.
Hey, I'm not too bad, I hope.
Yeah, which I think is important, right? It's a pretty important part of this whole thing that we do is like being a good guy and being a good hang and
being able to get along, because you're only on stage for what, an hour usually, or 2 hours.
Yeah.
And you got to be around all these people on the road, especially you're living together the rest of the day. You're sleeping on in bunks in the middle of the night and waking up. So that's definitely being able to get along with people in close quarters is a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think BB King said one time, I think it was BB King, probably just me, but he said, you can make a mediocre player better, but you're never going to make an asshole a nice guy.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Oh man. So where do you see like the music business going? Because it just seems so scary with music being free now. And like, do you think like people coming up, you think there's going to be gigs for people?
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to go all the way away. There's, like I said earlier, I was kind of joking around, but people are always going to need some sort of live music. And I was talking to my brother just the other day. He works on the grounds crew for the Astros in Houston.
That's cool.
And it's a great gig. Of course, he's not working right now, but they still talk. And he works with a bunch of young guys, and they're all really into jazz and R&B and live music. And I think that will always keep, like, there's always going to be people getting introduced to live music in all its forms that are going to be into it, because it's just so cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's, kind of undeniable. And of course, people will be into different types of stuff, but it's never going to go away. And the whole streaming thing, and I mean, it's been going on for most of my career. And I think the big record labels screwed that up royally.
Yeah,
at the time it happened, but music survives. You know what I mean? Especially, and I think for the smaller groups and the groups trying to get their stuff out there, it might be a good thing. Groups like Legally Blynd, we're able to kind of get our music out there through word of mouth. Groups, like Snarky Puppy, and they kind of created their own following without the help of those big record industry, people. So yeah, I think in some way it's always going to be around.
Yeah,
it's you can get really dark and depressed if you look at what's happened over the years, but then you're cutting out all the good stuff that's happened too. You're not looking at that.
Yeah, I think to some degree it's kind of part of human nature, this whole music thing. It's like a human expression, so we'll never be without it, hopefully.
I hope
more viruses, then we'll be.
So I think I keep reading this stuff about virus fatigue now. It's like I think people are done with it.
Yeah, I know.
We're gonna get sick. Whatever, we're gonna get sick.
Yeah. So when's your next gig on the books?
Well, technically, I'm supposed to start my Janet Jackson tour in a week. They haven't canceled that, but I'm suspecting we're not going to do that.
Where is it supposed to start?
Miami in like June 26th or something. I mean, it's postponed.
Got you.
But they haven't, since they don't know, they haven't told us anything about when it's going to come back. We were supposed to be on tour the whole summer.
Wow. Well,
she's coming out with a new album. I don't know what her progress is on that, because I think,
wow.
kind of all this stuff happened when she had still not completely finished it. So,
well, that's great. It's great that gig has kept on going.
Yeah, I love it. And, I'm sure whenever we get the clearance, we'll be out there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Talking music.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping you up late, and I know you're going to have to get up for your kids.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. This has been fun. It's fun to hang with you.
So has it been cool having the extra time to hang out with the fam?
Oh, yeah.
Other than the hard work, it's got to be pretty
good. It's super hard work, but I mean, it's really like, this is the most time I've ever spent and probably ever would have spent with my kids, because they're at school and I'm on tour and Aaron's at work, and this is forcing us to be together for 24 hours a day. But,
all the time.
But it really is wonderful. It's like,
yeah,
I'm getting to know them better than I probably ever would have otherwise, and there's something really special about that.
Yeah. Well, it's hard as a road dog to have the kid thing,
Yeah.
I imagine I haven't done it yet, but I imagine it's got to be a lot to juggle.
Yeah, it's tough. It's hard. It's hard on my wife, who's kind of decided early in our marriage that she wasn't going to travel anymore. So it's definitely hard to juggle. It is a struggle to juggle.
Hey, so there's a song in there somewhere.
Juggle.
Well, we got to hang out sometime for real when we can not wear masks.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do another one of these on that couch back there.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Let's hang out for real. Let's do a gig together.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Where would we do that? Like in my garage?
Yeah, that's fine.
No, definitely. Let's do it. Thanks for coming on, and we'll do it again and have a drink.
Sounds good. Have some lemonade.
Exactly.
All right,
man.
I'm a dive-bar rock star.
A large amount of fear and a big smile. I think that's so brilliant and so impressive. I think that's what impresses me the most about Errol, is that he's willing to sort of throw himself in the fire and put himself in situations that are uncomfortable and scary, quite frankly. I mean, there's a lot of pressure when you're putting yourself in a Grammy band, saying yes to that gig and knowing there's going to be a bunch of reading and that you're probably going to stumble, but you do it anyways. That takes some balls and some brilliance, and it's gotten him pretty far, because I mean, obviously he's a phenomenal player, but it takes a little more than that. You've got to be able to deal with the pressure of being on the Grammys, and having to read and having guys breathing down your throat that are really, really good. And that's, LA is full of guys that are really, really good, and it makes people at the top have a little less patience with people who aren't really, really good. There's a big lesson to be learned, I think, from Errol in that sense. And that's really what it's all about. It's about getting out of your comfort zone, doing scary things, and learning from every experience, And I think he's a brilliant example. His whole career is. And I think it's really exciting when you meet people that are as talented as him and as humble as him. Because, ego is a big factor in this whole thing that we do here, and in performance. It's an important thing that you have to have, but it's also a thing that left unchecked can get you into a lot of trouble, and at the least make you not that fun of a person to hang out with. So it's inspiring to meet people who are humble and super talented. I was also, by the way, just only giving him shit about not being likable because, as you can tell, he's a super likable guy, and that's another big strength of his. He's just real fun hang. He's a cool dude, and he's a lot of fun. A couple of things to clarify. At one point, I talked about Chad recommended me to Matt for the High School Musical tour. I was talking about Chad Wright, who's on another episode of this podcast that you should look up. He's really awesome. And Matt Rohde was one of the keyboard players and co-musical directors. Matt also plays on American Idol and Jane's Addiction, and just his list of credits is unbelievable. So check him out. Teddy Campbell, of course, was the drummer for The Tonight Show when Rickey Minor was the musical director, and he's amazing. Look him up. And Tarek Coney is a guitar player who's really amazing. He plays with Josh Groban, David Foster, and has another one of these crazy awesome resumes. He's a Berkeley guy, and a really cool dude. So I think that's it. I hope you had fun. I'm a dive bar rock star. Wow, you've made it to the end. I'm hoping it's because you completely enjoyed yourself and are now filled with knowledge and inspiration to move forward with your dreams. If that is the case and you would like to stay informed of new episodes, live events, and general news, please go to divebarrockstar.com and sign up for the mailing list. If you have any questions, comments, corrections, or complaints about anything you hear on the show, please email me at fanmail@divebarrockstar.com, and you may even end up on the show. We at the Dive Bar Rockstar podcast, with all of our hearts, thank you for listening, and remember, it's all about dreams.